Notes. So in the fall of 2020, our firstborn child kicked us out of her life and went no contact and has not spoken to us since. I shared my story here on YouTube in kind of a different way than is usually done on YouTube. I made it a little bit artsy. It was just a different way to communicate what it feels like to deal with a loss of this magnitude. It was from my perspective as a mom going through it. I can't know my daughter's side because she refuses to speak to us. I did this video for the benefit of other parents. It's been almost a year now that it's been out. I hemmed and hawed about telling that story. But when my daughter started talking about her estrangement on TikTok publicly, I figured, well, if she can speak about her situation, I can speak about mine. And the reason I did it was because I had a feeling that there were other parents out there going through the same thing, but were hiding it because they're ashamed. It is a shameful thing. I mean, when your child kicks you out of your life, everyone, is like, what did you do? And that's what we were wondering too. The response to this video has been an incredible mix of heartfelt support from parents who have either gone through it or who have friends going through it, or who have a high level of empathy for understanding what it might feel like if they were to go through it. But on the flip side of that, there was also an incredible amount of outrage that came as a result of this video as well, which was actually really surprising. I mean, I'm just a mom sharing my experience. Granted, I am sharing it in a bit of a cinematic vlog essay style, so it's not the usual way of sharing, but it is my story. It's how I felt. It's how I progressed. And from the comments I've received from parents going through it, I know that they completely get it. This is so similar to their experience, and these were the people that I made this video for. So our estrangement started with an angry letter from our daughter, just explaining that it was pretty much over politics. It was 2020, a very contentious election year. She was on one side, we were on the other. I personally didn't talk about my political beliefs because why bother arguing with that? It's like arguing Jesus versus Allah. There's no point. My husband was a little more supportive in his feelings about it, but in the end, 90% of that letter was about politics. I will never share that letter because it is not for public consumption. End of story. The result, though, was that my husband and I were absolutely stunned. This kind of letter just came out of left field, absolute left field. We had always had a good relationship with this daughter. She was a wonderful child, a smart child. She did well in school. She was just, honestly, she was a great child. We didn't have any big problems with her that we knew of. We were always there for her. She was an introvert, so we gave her space. And for this kind of angry rant over politics, which she had never cared about before in her life, was just completely, it took us aback. We were shocked, stunned. We didn't know what to do. We literally did not know what to do. There was no playbook for what to do in this situation. So because we really didn't know how to react, we went through every emotion possible. Of course, there was shock, and then there was more shock and confusion and sort of what do we do here and what caused this? And yes, there was self-reflection, like what could we have done to make her so mad? Why is she so upset about an election? Of all things, honestly, whether you put A or B into office, it almost doesn't matter at this point because the deep government runs the show. So why all the anger over this? We were blindsided, absolutely blindsided. So the emotions ran from the confusion into shame and anger and resentment, bitterness, you name it, we felt it. And ultimately, as parents, we felt betrayed after all of the love and energy and effort and goodwill that we had put into having our child and raising our child in the best way that we knew how and giving her a nice childhood, or so we thought. You know, she didn't want for anything. I mean, materially, we gave her the, whatever attention she was willing to accept. Like I said, she was an extreme introvert, so we did give her space as well so that she could recoup. We had been talking to her, through college, after college. Generally, we'd had an open, caring relationship where she felt free to come to us with so many issues. I mean, she came to us with some really serious issues. We talked it out, everything was fine. And so to be rejected over something like politics just seemed out of whack. It just seemed disproportionately awful. It's just politics. So that was our story. Every estrangement is unique, but that was our story. So this began the most painful journey of our lives. We spent 3 years just kind of bumbling around, trying to figure out, what do we do? Where do we go? How do we react? What's the right thing to do? What's the wrong thing to do? I mean, we were just trying to figure it out. We didn't really know where to turn, and there was a lot of rumination. But over time, we did turn to various sources. We learned a lot about this process, and in time, we have been able to move through it, work it out. And I would say that healing is a spectrum. So on the healing spectrum, I'm generally about 95% healed. I don't know that I'll ever be 100% healed because she is my daughter and I still love her no matter what. But 95% is, I think, pretty good. And my husband and I are able to move on with our lives. We're finding new purpose, new joy, new memories, new traditions, and I want to help you do the same. We've essentially let go with love. And while that door is always open for her if she ever wants to come through it again, we understand that she may never come through it again, and that's her choice, and so be it, and we will go on and make the best of our lives. Our happiness doesn't depend on what she does or doesn't decide to do, so we are essentially free. Now, I just want to say here, I'm not a therapist. I'm just a mom who's gone through this hellscape, and I'm here to help anybody else who's interested in my experience get through their own personal hellscape. If you need therapy, get a therapist. This is just a different kind of approach. I'm just sharing my experience, and hopefully it will help someone out there. So I'm creating this short video series to help you go from heartbreak to healing so that you can find the joy and purpose in your life again. I've broken this down into 6 stages, and I'm just going to briefly walk you through what they are so that you'll know what to expect. Stage 1 is ground zero. The first video, we're going to talk about the initial shock period and how to handle that. Stage 2 is the aftershocks phase. It's like, okay, you've ingested the situation. Now what do you do? Stage 3 is emotional triage. How do you cope with the roller coaster of emotions that you're going to go through when you're rejected by a beloved child? Video 4 is going to be about deep reflection, and we're really going to look back into ourselves and look at, what can I control? What can I control? What did I do? What did I not do? And we're going to come to some kind of resolution around that. Video 4 is going to be about radical acceptance. That is, how do you get to the point where you are able to accept what is, make peace with it, and move on with your life? And then video 6, stage 6, is going to be letting go with love. How do you do it? How do you let go of this child with love, set them free, set yourself free, and get on with living your best possible life moving forward? This was my process for getting through the horror that is parental estrangement. Other people may have a slightly different process. I have done a lot of research on this. My process is not so different from others that I've read, but my hope is that if someone goes through this and is able to get through it, ultimately, if you do this work, it will set you free, and it sets you up to accept whatever happens in life. So if your child comes back, it puts you in a better space mentally to receive that, But if your child doesn't come back, that's okay too. You will still live your best, most beautiful, full life going forward. And again, you will be set free from the cage of pain that you're currently living in.